All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the train station. And draft season is upon us, and every year I kind of like to have some fun and do a mock draft. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it in just a moment. Now, this is going to be with trades as well. I thought about doing one without trades and with trades, but I think that would just take too long. The way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna pick for all 32 teams. What I think they will do and what I think they should do. A little bit of combination of both. My thoughts and opinions on what each team needs. It'll tell you, but this is gonna be for kind of what I need. Or what I think they need. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. So for the second year in a row, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock with the number 1 overall pick. Last year, they took Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall. They can do a lot of different things here. They re-signed Cam Robinson, so he has some offensive line help, but the rest of that offensive line is still pretty bad. So they could go offensive lineman here. They do need some defensive help as well, but if I was the Jags, I would try and get Trevor Lawrence as much help as possible. But that is just me. And because if I do this as a change, it does not. I guess it is. Okay. So if I was Jacksonville, I'm taking the best player on the board, which depending on who it is, depending on who you ask, there's different of the best players on the board. Aiden Hutchinson seems to be like the odds-on favorite to be the best player in the draft, but there has been talks that Trayvon Walker, an athletic freak, is jumping up everybody's draft boards to become the number 1 overall pick. What I think Jacksonville does is their new GM Balake, he likes those athletic freaks. I think they go Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall, which brings us to the Lions. The Lions, they just need talent all over the board. But if Jacksonville does end up going Trayvon Walker, this allows the Lions, who maybe could go quarterback here. Jared Goff, not the quarterback of the future. But I think if Jacksonville doesn't select Aiden Hutchinson, they're going to be running in to throw in that card. Aiden Hutchinson is a Dan Campbell guy, kind of a knee biter kind of guy. Definitely a player that fits what he's trying to do over there in Detroit. If you looked at who they drafted last year, they got Penei Sewell in the first round, and then they took the defensive tackle with a weird name that I can't pronounce in the second round. A big, mean defensive tackle. Yes, the Lions do suck. I am aware. That is why they picked number 2 in the draft this year. As they usually pick somewhere between 1 and 12 every year because they never make the playoffs. It's the Lions. It's, repeat mediocrity. I've talked about that enough. The Texans, as you can see, their needs are every position. They finally were able to grant Deshaun Watson his wish. He is no longer in Houston. He is now in Cleveland. They also have Cleveland's first-round pick later on at 13, which could be very interesting to see what they do there. They need everything. Quarterback could also be in play here. Lovie Smith, the new coach, they probably end up going defense. But you also have Laremy Tunsil, whose contract is very close to expiring. The Houston, this is one of the harder picks because they can literally go anywhere with this pick. But I think they're going to go ahead and take best player available, which at this point is probably Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's going to be a guy that Lovie Smith absolutely likes to have on that team. They could go offensive line to try and protect Davis Mills, see what Davis Mills is about, but I think they go Kayvon Thibodeaux out of Oregon. So 3 edge rushers off the board, 1, 2, 3, just like that. Now the Jets are interesting. They have 2 picks. They have number 4, and then you can see him there at number 10 as well from Seattle, from the Jamal Adams trade. So they need wide receiver. They got to get Zach Wilson some help. They need to get him some offensive line help as well, but they also need a lockdown corner, which they haven't had in a long time, probably since Darrelle Revis. So while they might not go this route, it makes the most sense for them to go Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati, who did not allow a single touchdown in college, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. All these years, he didn't allow a single touchdown, so that just makes the most sense. Robert Saleh, their new head coach, is a big defensive-minded guy. He goes and gets probably the best defensive player in this draft. Everybody says it's Aiden Hutchinson. I would put my money on Ahmad Gardner being the best defensive player in this draft, along with Kayvon Thibodeaux. The Giants have 5 and 7. The 7 came from last year with the Justin Fields trade up for Chicago. I don't think New York keeps both of these picks. And if they're really invested in Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley like they have been trying to for years, they're definitely going tackle here. And it's very tough to determine which tackle is going to go first, because all three of them are different. Evan Neal can play pretty much anywhere on the line. Ikem Ekwonu, I think that's his name, has really been rising up draft boards lately, as has Charles Cross. But if I had to guess, they really like Ikem Ekwonu, so that's who the Giants are going to go ahead and take at 5. Now 6, Carolina. They've invested a lot into quarterbacks, and they haven't worked out. Christian McCaffrey hasn't been able to stay healthy. They definitely need some offensive line help, but the problem, Carolina has a big problem here, because 6 is their only pick in the top. This is their one. They have one pick in the top 100, and this is this pick right here. So if I was Carolina, I would trade the pick, but I'm not sure that they will, because I would most definitely trade the pick if I was Carolina to try and get more picks within the top 100, because you have a lot of needs. Quarterback is definitely into play here, but I don't think they're going to go quarterback, because I think they're going to use one of those later round picks that they have and either get Jimmy Garoppolo, or they're going to wait for the Browns to release Baker Mayfield and pick him up. And that's what I think they're going to do at quarterback. However, Kenny Pickett is very much in play here. Malik Willis is very much in play here. But I don't see them doing it. So if you're going to really invest into a quarterback later on, whether it's Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield, or you roll with Sam Darnold for one more year, you got to get them some help. So they're going to go ahead and get Evan Neal, the tackle, out of Alabama here. New York at 7. They just took Ekwonu at 5. They're definitely going to look to trade back a little bit. So for the sake of this, we're going to have them trade with the Saints, who are looking to get the Saints, who are looking to kind of get a receiver or a quarterback. So for the sake of this, we're going to give them a next year second and a first this year. So the Saints jump up to number 7. They jump in front of Atlanta, who is also in the market potentially for a quarterback. They jump in front of them, and they go ahead, and they're going to, and also Seattle, who's also in the quarterback market. So this is where I can see the first trade really happening, because if it's a team like New Orleans, or you could see a team like Pittsburgh try and jump up high as well, because all those teams need quarterbacks. So you see quarterback need, and then Pittsburgh down here at 20 also needs a quarterback. So you could kind of see that happening. I see Saints moving up. Kenny Pickett, arguably the best quarterback in the draft. The Saints move up, take Kenny Pickett. First quarterback gone. So with them being gone, Atlanta has Marcus Mariota. They traded away Matt Ryan. So they're like I said, they signed Marcus Mariota, who is very well a possibility to play well for them, but they don't have any receivers, and they need a receiver bad. They have Kyle Pitts, the tight end, who they drafted last year. He's going to be a star. And then outside of Calvin Ridley, I couldn't tell you any other receiver on this team. They're struggling for a receiver. So I think with pick number 8, I think the Falcons get the best receiver in the draft, or the second best receiver in the draft, who everybody has rated number 1, Garrett Wilson. I think his teammate Chris Olave is the best receiver in the draft. But everybody has Garrett Wilson here at 8. It makes the most sense. So with that, they go and get Garrett Wilson. They get Marcus Mariota, at least give him a chance. They can always go quarterback later, guys like Desmond Ridder or somebody like that. Depending on how the board plays out later down the line, they could go quarterback. Or even they could do the approach that I think Carolina's going to do and get either Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo. Atlanta could take that same approach. They went all in for Deshaun Watson and didn't get it. Seattle, they didn't have a first-round pick. Their pick was actually 10 to New York. They got a pick. They got number 9 from Denver by trading away longtime Pro Bowler, longtime Seahawk Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion, all of that. So again, quarterback could be in play here. Malik Willis, they really like that guy. But they really need an edge rusher. Seattle's always been known to have a great defense, and they are very much lacking that right now. And all the top edges are flying off the board quickly. So at number 9, Seattle's going to just stay right where they are, and they're going to get Jermaine Johnson II. Now you have four of the 5 best defensive ends already off the board, and we're only 9 picks in. New York. So I had them get Ahmad Gardner earlier. This could be another situation where they try and trade back a little bit. But they, like I mentioned earlier, they need to give Zach Wilson some weapons. So he's coming off an ACL tear, which makes it very, very tough to pick him this high, but I think he'll be just fine. They're finally going to go get their deep threat receiver, and they're going to get Jameson Williams out of Alabama. Washington, their needs are quarterback. I mean, they just traded for Carson Wentz, so I don't think quarterback is a giant need. You can put the talent around him. Wide receiver could be in play here. They do need some offensive linemen. But I think they're going to still go with the best player they feel is available at this point. I don't know how he ends up sliding this far, but he does. Kyle Hamilton slides this far. Ron Rivera would love to have a guy like him in his system. Easy pickings for Washington. The Washington Commanders, who are no longer the football team, easy pickings if they're there. Minnesota, they need a corner bad. They're going to go ahead and take the second best corner. Derek Stingley has had injury issues at LSU, but his former LSU defensive coach is in Minnesota currently. The pick just makes too much sense. Here's Houston, who again is on the clock. They ended up taking Kayvon Thibodeau earlier. Now they could go offense. They could, go quarterback. But this is a prime position for them to be one of those teams to trade back and get more picks because they need them. They got 37-68. They have a lot of picks. But I think they're going to go ahead and go more. And they're going to trade their pick with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who move up. And Pittsburgh, now in the market for a quarterback, can go and get a quarterback. They move up a little bit. They move up 7 spots. They give up a second rounder next year as well. They go ahead and take Malik Willis out of Liberty, who many think could be the first quarterback taken. Kenny Pickett, I had for a long time mocked to Pittsburgh. I just don't see it really happening. He's going to be gone before them, so they might as well try and trade up. They do have Mitchell Trubisky, and they kind of do need defensive help a little bit, but for the most part, you really have to get that quarterback of the future unless you believe in Mitch Trubisky, which if you've seen him in Chicago, he's not really the guy that you can rely on. Unfortunately, they need a backup quarterback now with the tragic death of Dwayne Haskins Jr., because I believe Mason Rudolph is a free agent and Joshua Dobbs signed with the Browns. So they don't really have a backup quarterback. You can have Malik Willis come in. He doesn't have to start right away. He can sit behind Trubisky. He can learn the way. So they also jump above their division rival in the Ravens, who, they get it from Cleveland anyways, which is a division rival, so it's kind of funny how that works out. The Ravens, it says they need D-line and corner. They definitely need some offensive line help. If he manages to fall this far, Charles Cross going to Baltimore would be an absolute steal for them. Now, Eagles are up. Eagles need all sorts of help. They had 3 first-round picks, but they traded one to New Orleans, and then I used that New Orleans pick for them to move up again. So Philly is in a great position. They have 15 and 18. They have 15 from Miami, and then they have 18 from New Orleans. And then they have 2 firsts next year as well. So they have 2 firsts this year, 2 firsts next year. They're in a very good position to end up with a lot of talent, and this team needs a lot of talent. Jalen Hurts is good. Do they end up going wide receiver for the 3rd straight year in the first round? Maybe. I think the wide receiver talent here is too good, especially when, who I said the best wide receiver still on the board. The Eagles at 15 go Chris Olave, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. After, 3rd wide receiver taken after Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams. Olave could very well be the 1st or 2nd receiver taken. Like I said, to me, he's the best receiver in the draft. So New York on the clock again. They took Ikwamu and then, all that. So they're on the clock again. They traded back. And now, since we got them some offensive line help, we're going to go ahead and get them some defensive help. And at 16, they're going to go ahead and get Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah, one of the top linebackers in the draft. Nakobe Dean could also be in play there, as could George Karlaftis. This is one of those drafts where it's kind of all over the place. You're not really sure where it's going to go or how it's going to go. This draft, compared to others, could go completely, upside down. Chargers, a great team. They gotta protect. They gotta continue to protect Justin Herbert, who's going to be an absolute star in this league if he isn't already. So let's go to offensive tackles. And I think they're going to go ahead and they're going to get the mean streak man, Trevor Penning, the tackle out of Northern Iowa. They struck gold last year with Slater dropping. This year, Trevor Penning drops. And so now you got Penning. You're going to have Penning on one side. You're going to have Slater on the other. That's going to be pretty good protection for Justin Herbert and company. They could even go wide receiver. I think the wide receiver class is deep enough they can chill out and wait a little bit. So for the Eagles, Chris Olave obviously was selected 15. This could be another situation where I think they could trade, but they'll probably stay. They need some big-time defensive help. Darius Slay is their only known DB, so they could go DB here. Linebacker is also into play as you're looking at the team needs, but they could also, if they didn't go receiver here, they could go receiver. They could also go offensive line. Their offensive line is aging. Defensive line as well. It's getting pretty old. But I think they're going to go corner. It's not a very deep corner class at all. It's a very, very weak corner class compared to other years. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to take Trent McDuffie, the corner out of Washington. New Orleans on the clock again. I had them trade up to take Kenny Pickett earlier. It would probably take both for them to trade up. This pick would probably end up going as well, especially since they moved up to 7. So this pick would most likely, in a scenario, this pick and their other pick would go to New York. 16 and 19 would go to New York for 7, most likely. But in this mock draft, we're not doing that. So you invest into the quarterback. You have Jameis Winston on the team. You can have Willis learn, or you can have Kenny Pickett learn behind Jameis Winston for a year. Jameis Winston will be totally fine. You got to get some weapons outside of Michael Thomas. You also lost Teron Armstead. But you just invested in the quarterback. Get your quarterback some weapons. Drake London is going to go 19 to the New Orleans Saints. 20. Houston Texans after the trade with Pittsburgh, as Pittsburgh traded up to get a quarterback of the future. They need literally everything. So we're going to go ahead and get them another defensive lineman to match up with Kayvon Thibodeau. We're going to get them Devontae Wyatt. So now you have Wyatt and Thibodeau. You got a pretty good defensive line right there to go with. New England. I don't know what Bill Belichick is thinking here. I really don't. Because Bill Belichick is a mastermind at this kind of stuff. Obviously, wide receivers a need, but they just picked up Devontae Parker. You lost J.C. Jackson in free agency. You don't really have a linebacker leader that you used to have with Hightower and all those guys. Patriots could also go offensive line here because they're known for producing great offensive linemen all the time. But I mentioned it earlier, the cornerback class stinks, and they're really going to need to get a corner because they lost J.C. Jackson, and last year they traded away Stephon Gilmore. So you're throwing out Jalen Mills as your starting corner along with Malcolm Butler. Not a good fit. Andrew Booth is going to go to New England and help out Bill Belichick in that defense. Green Bay, this pick from the Raiders as they traded away Devontae Adams. They very well could double dip at receiver here. They could get some more D-line help to try and rush quarterbacks. George Karlaftis still being on the board is kind of surprising, but I definitely think that if the opportunity presents itself at 22 to get a receiver, if you're Green Bay, you jump all over it. There were times I had them trading up to try and go and get a guy like Chris Olave, but in this draft, it just didn't make any sense for them to move up. So they stayed put, which is okay. People really like Treylon Burks here, but George Pickens is definitely a Green Bay guy. He's a tall, lengthy receiver with good hands. He's not going to be Devontae Adams, nor will they have to expect him to be. But he's definitely a guy that Aaron Rodgers will love throwing the ball to. They finally help Aaron Rodgers out after giving him all that money. And they get him a first-round receiver. George Pickens going to Green Bay. Arizona. Arizona could use some defensive help. They could try to protect midget man Kyler Murray a little bit more. They definitely need a corner, but all the corners really have just come off the board already. You have Elam, and then you have Petre and Daxton Hill, but those guys are more of safeties. Kyler Gordon as well could end up being a good pick here. And that Pac-12, that West Coast bias, that's what I think they do. They have to get some corner help. Kyler Gordon is the pick at 23. Dallas Cowboys, I don't even want to talk about these guys or do this pick, but my job is to be fair to everybody. Cowboys need some offensive line help. Zion Johnson is a guard who will come in probably start right away. So Zion Johnson goes to the Cowboys, the guard out of Boston College. Buffalo. They could go many, many ways here. So could a lot of these teams. They need defensive line help. Wide receiver, not really. They definitely need a running back. And there's been many, many situations where I have been very tempted to put a wide receiver, or not a wide receiver, but a running back here at 25. This might be the first year where we don't see a running back drafted in the first round, for a long time at least. But they also do need some corner help. So there's not many corners left. Like I said, it's a pretty bad corner class. So really, there's only one first-round corner left, and that is Karai Elam. So they're gonna, because they can wait on running back, because nobody's taken a running back yet. The running back class is kind of deep. You got Kenneth Walker, you got Breece Hall. They can wait till the second round to go and address that running back need. They don't really need wide receiver too much. But they definitely needed another big-time corner. Elam will come right in, should start right away. And then if Arizona goes Elam, then Buffalo could very well go Gordon. Or if Booth ends up dropping, they could go Booth. Tennessee, nobody's really talking about it. But Ryan Tannehill is getting old. He struggled down the stretch last year. They could very well be in the quarterback market. There's still guys like Ritter and Corral and Sam Howell available. They also need an offensive line. So nobody's really talking about the fact that Tennessee very well could go quarterback here. I'm very, very tempted to have them go quarterback, but I honestly I just don't see them. I don't see them wasting their first round pick on a quarterback. Maybe second round, a guy like Matt Corral falls, or a guy like Desmond Ritter falls, and then that is when you take the quarterback. But it's not being talked about enough. They definitely, if they're trying to be all in like they were last year, you got to help Derrick Henry and you got to keep Ryan Tannehill up if that's what you decide to do at the quarterback position. So they're going to take Tyler Smith, the tackle out of Tulsa, a guy who's rising up a lot of draft boards, big beefy guy. Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's back, so that solves your quarterback situation, at least for now. You also, I believe, have Josh Rosen still as a backup. So you don't have to really worry about that right now unless you wanted to. You do need some offensive line to help keep Brady upright. And you also need a safety because you lost a safety to free agency. You lost a couple offensive linemen. Both are still good at this point, but this just feels more and more like a Tampa Bay pick. Daxton Hill can play both corner and safety. They could also maybe trade this pick away, but Daxton Hill just feels like the pick here. He can play corner, he can play safety, he can play in the slot, in the nickel, wherever you want to put him. Daxton Hill can play there. Started pretty much all 3 years at Michigan. He'll be a good plug-and-play guy there for them. Green Bay on the clock again. They took George Pickens. So that, like I said, they could double dip into wide receiver here. But I think they're going to go ahead and address the defensive line, which they need some help with. So they're going to go ahead. I don't know how he dropped this far, but Jordan Davis is a massive. He's like 375 pounds. He's a massive guy. He'll plug up the inside for him, and he'll fit right in. Back-to-back picks now for Kansas City. I don't remember what they did to get San Francisco's pick. I'm sorry. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then they have their pick. They need a lot of defensive help. And they have 12 picks in the draft, and I don't think they use all 12 picks. I think at some point they're going to try to trade. If I was Kansas City, I'd maybe try to trade up a little bit. If there's a guy you really like or a receiver you really like, you traded away Tyreek Hill. So if there's a guy you really like, you try and trade up. But the way the board has worked out for them, they just stay put here. They take George Karlaftis, the edge rusher out of Purdue, who many think could go as high as 14 to the Ravens. I have them getting a tackle, but he could go as high as there. So if he drops to 29, falls right into their lap, they're going to turn the card in quick. They could go a receiver here. They could go more defense. Corner, like I said, is kind of bad right now, so maybe you try and get a free agent guy. Maybe you try and bring a guy like Tyrann Mathieu back, who's a safety who could play linebacker, to try and help out a little bit. You could trade this pick away and get more picks. I know I've only had very few trades. Haven't had too many. Not too many have really come up. I don't really know who else would move into the first round. But George Karlaftis there, and then this would be a dream scenario for the Chiefs. You can wait on a wide receiver. Like I said, they have 12 picks, so they can definitely wait. They're going to go ahead and get Nakobe Dean and George Karlaftis and Nakobe Dean to help reshape that defense, because it doesn't really matter if they get a receiver or not. Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. He'll figure it out. Another dream scenario, Cincinnati invested a lot into their O-line. Super Bowl runner-ups. However, if Tyler Lindenbaum was to fall to 31, Cincinnati's jumping all over that to really help Joe Burrow stay upright. Him with all their other signings that they made, Joe Burrow may not get sacked this year, which is a good thing for them. And then the Lions back on the clock at 32. They started the draft at 2. They end at 32. This pick from the LA Super Bowl champion Rams in the Matthew Stafford trade. I really do think Lions could go quarterback here. I was very tempted not to take Nakobe Dean, to have him drop to the Lions here at 32. They take Aiden Hutchinson, the hometown guy. They sit, they wait, the board plays out. I think this might be the pick. They go quarterback. They also need a safety. And Lewison and Jalen Petrie are sitting right there. Sky Moore, they need a receiver. Sky Moore sitting right there. Treylon Burks is sitting right there. Jahan Dotson sitting right there. But they also pick 34. They have a lot of picks. So the Lions have 33. Or not 33. They got 34, 66, 97. They have 5 picks in the top 100. So they can fill all of their needs in those first 5 picks. But because of the 5th-year option availability for rookies on first-year deals, I think they go quarterback. Which quarterback do they go? I don't know. I really like Desmond Ridder. I think he's going to end up being the best quarterback in the draft. But Matt Corral has been shooting up everybody's draft boards. So I think the Lions end up taking the risk. Jared Goff has 1 more year in Detroit before they can, take his salary away and all of that. The Lions end the first round from the LA Rams. They trade away a quarterback. They got a quarterback back, and then they draft his replacement. Matt Corral goes number 32 to the Lions. So as we can see, my first rounder here, Travon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Ahmad Gardner, Ikem Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Kenny Pickett, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson II, Jameson Williams, Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley, Malik Willis, Charles Cross, Olave, Devin Lloyd, Trevor Penning, Trent McDuffie, Drake London, Devontae Watt, Andrew Booth, George Pickens, Kyler Gordon, Zion Johnson, Elam, Tyler Smith, Daxton Hill, Jordan Davis, Carl Loftus, Nakobe Dean, Tyler Linbaum, and Matt Corral. A lot of these guys slipped. A lot of first-round talent will slip into the second round. It happens every year. That's why teams always try and trade back, or they try and trade up. But a lot of teams always try to trade back so they can get those second and third rounders stacked, because you always find your star in the first round, you find your team in the second round, and then you find your starters in the second, third round. You really find your team in the 4 through 7. So teams really like to get those second and third, those day 2 picks to try and get those guys who slip through the cracks day 2 and day 3. This was hard because, like I said, this is one of those mock drafts that in the future this is one of those mock drafts that you just don't really know what's going to happen. Travon Walker, as of now, is the betting favorite to go number 1, but Aiden Hutchinson has been the number 1 player all year. Why would he not go? Kayvon Thibodeaux, he was, before Hutchinson, the number 1 player. People question his loyalty to football and this and that. He's lazy. He doesn't. It's all smoke. Ahmad Gardner, if Derek Stingley wasn't hurt at LSU, he'd probably be in the conversation for first corner taken. Kyle Hamilton probably going to slip just because other needs are needed for teams. Going to be interesting to see which quarterbacks actually go first and which ones don't. Maybe no quarterbacks go first round. Maybe Carolina does not listen to me at all and they go quarterback instead of tackle. But maybe New Orleans or Pittsburgh, one of those teams, they wait for a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Baker Mayfield to become available, and then they pull the trigger on a late round, trade. So it's very interesting to see how the quarterback situation is going to work. What's Tennessee going to do? A lot of these teams, you're just not really sure what they're going to do, and that's why this has really made this draft more interesting than others. That is my first round mock draft. I want to continue and do more, but nobody ever really does past the first round. I'm excited for Thursday night. I'm also nervous because I know the Lions are going to lion it up and do stupid things and irritate me. And so hopefully maybe I'll be asleep due to my work schedule by then, but who knows. I'm excited for the draft. The draft is back. This is my mock draft. For those in the comment section, let me know how you think I did. What's your mock draft? And how many picks do you think I'm going to get right come Thursday night? That's all I have. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I will catch you guys soon. Thank you. Peace.